March 27th, 1836. Over 1,000 saints packed the benches of the Kirtland Temple. The air was electric with anticipation. Sidney Rigdon preached for more than 2 hours. Hymns filled the house. Then Joseph Smith rose and read the dedicatory prayer he had received by revelation, the prayer we now know as Doctrine and Covenants 109. What happened next ranks among the most extraordinary spiritual outpourings in Restoration history. Angels appeared. Cloven tongues of fire rested on many. People spoke in tongues, prophesied, and felt the glory of God like a rushing mighty wind. For many, it felt like a latter-day Pentecost. This was meant to be the powerful endowment that would prepare Ephraim's chosen line to build Zion and gather Israel in the latter days. The Kirtland Temple wasn't just a building. It was the crowning achievement of years of grinding poverty and sacrifice. Men, women, and children worked side by side, hauling stone and making mortar through harsh Ohio winters. Many donated their last blankets, food stores, or land. The debt weighed heavily on everyone. Joseph had promised that if they finished the house of the Lord on time, great blessings and power from on high would follow. Divine empowerment for gathering Israel and building Zion. That promise created sky-high expectations. In the morning session, Frederick G. Williams testified that during Sidney Rigdon's prayer, a tall heavenly messenger entered through a window behind the pulpit and sat between him and Joseph Smith Sr. Heber C. Kimball later described the figure as very tall, with black eyes and white hair, stoop-shouldered, wearing a white garment to his ankles and sandals. Joseph later clarified that this was the Apostle Peter, sent to accept the dedication of the temple. In the afternoon, after Joseph read the dedicatory prayer, the real outpouring began. Oliver Cowdery described the glory of God descending like a great cloud, filling the house like a mighty rushing wind. George A. Smith stood to prophesy, and the sound of rushing winds swept through the congregation. The entire assembly rose as if moved by an invisible power. Many saw glorious visions. Joseph declared the temple was filled with angels. Eliza R. Snow later wrote, "No mortal language can describe the heavenly manifestations of that memorable day. Angels appeared to some, while a sense of divine presence was realized by all. In the days and weeks that followed, the manifestations continued. The Savior was seen by some. The beloved disciple John appeared. Brigham Young and David W. Patton spoke in tongues. For many saints, this was exactly the endowment of power Joseph had promised. This was the spiritual high point, the house of the Lord. The building so many had sacrificed so much to complete had been accepted. The literal blood of Ephraim seemed empowered for the last day's work. Yet within months, crushing financial strain from the temple debt and the collapse of the Kirtland Safety Society shattered that unity. The same zealous believers who had experienced these glorious manifestations soon fractured. Just 1 year later, in this very temple, weapons were drawn. Dissenters rushed the stand where Patriarch Joseph Smith Sr. was presiding. Swords and guns appeared. Saints jumped out windows in terror. The riot wasn't random. It was the crash after this incredible high. Warren Parrish, Joseph's former scribe and an officer in the Safety Society, had been right in the middle of the Pentecostal season. When the bank failed amid the national panic of 1837, accusations flew both ways. Parrish and his allies blamed Joseph for over-promising and mismanagement. Soon, he was publicly calling Joseph a fallen prophet. John F. Boynton, an apostle whose family had sacrificed greatly, believed the Safety Society was instituted by revelation and would not fail. When it collapsed and note holders lost heavily, his testimony shattered. In the riot, Boynton drew a sword from his cane and threatened to run William Smith through. These weren't distant enemies. They were the zealous builders who had felt the fire, only to watch their sacrifices evaporate in bank failure and unmet expectations. As Mormon history detective, I'm asking, was this divine outpouring, this Pentecostal acceptance of the temple, exactly what Ephraim's appointed line needed to move the kingdom forward? Or did the height of these expectations make the later fall into apostasy and violence even more painful? If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most dramatic highs and lows in early Mormon history, drop a like. Leave a comment with your thoughts on the Kirtland Temple story, and subscribe for more Mormon History Detective case files. The next episode is already in the works.